right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, the competitor list for the California Pro, which is this weekend, May 25th. So we're already running back a lot of the guys that were just in the New York Pro, again, this weekend in California on the 25th. So there's 22 guys on this list, so a pretty decent lineup here. 8 of them coming over from the New York Pro. So let's go through this here. You've got Eddie Bracamontes, Tim Budashim from the New York Pro, Tonio Burton from the New York Pro. You've also got Nathan Dandridge, Rafael Del Real, Toto Zhang, Dorian Haywood, Paul Hinson, Brady King, Joseph Kavetin, Jangmin Lee, Pablo Lopez Munoz, An Nguyen, Emir Omaragic from the New York Pro, Joseph Palacios, Sam Pierce, Milan Sadek from the New York Pro, Ray Short, Stuart Sutherland, top 4 from the New York Pro, Brett Swanson, Christian Wolski, who was top 5 at the New York Pro, and In Song Yu, also competing here in California. So, while you might not have Martin, you might not have Nick Walker, you do have Tonio Burton, who was top 3. You do also have Beef Stew, who was top 4, so we get to see that rematch here. It'll be interesting to see because I think, based on this lineup, even though there's so many guys, those two, Tonio and Beef, I feel so stupid saying beef like that. Tonio and Stu are going to be probably the top 2 frontrunners to win this show. And it'll be interesting to see if Beef Stew is able to actually beat Tonio here. Because while Tonio is the on-paper favorite still, because he's the highest Olympia placer, he was top 8 in 2023, despite that, the shows that he's done in 2024, he's been unable to win a show yet. So maybe this would be his first win of 2024, or potentially Beef Stew's first win. But no matter what, no matter who wins this show, there's going to be a new name added to that Olympia qualified competitor list that is currently not on that list. Now, I wanted to go over this as well. So next up in the news, we actually did get the score sheets from the New York Pro. And I was interested to look at Nick and Martin's score. So, just like they said at finals, it was a 1-point decision between Nick and Martin at prejudging. Martin had a score of 5 at prejudging. Nick had a score of 4. So that means one of the judges had Martin winning the show over Nick. That means this was not a unanimous decision. And then for the finals, it was the exact same thing. So it was also a 1-point decision at finals. Martin with 5, Nick with 4, leaving the final score being a 2-point decision of 10-8. So it was 1-point decision for each judging round. Then the total final score was 2 points between Nick and Martin. And this is why I've become such a fan of Martin, is because back-to-back shows that he's done, the Detroit Pro, which he won, beating good Vito, the score between him and Vito in that top 2 was like the closest top 2 we've had in a very long time. Closer than Hottie and Sampson at both Arnold Classics. Closer than Derek and Hottie at the Olympia. And now he did almost the same thing here with Nick Walker, who is a top 3 Olympian. It was still impressive when he did it with Vito, because Vito's had all this hype on social media. He's like this, freak that we hadn't seen yet. But Nick is a top 3 Olympian. He's one of the best bodybuilders on the planet. So I want to reiterate again that for Martin to be able to push Nick within 1 point, back-to-back, prejudging and finals, when Martin has never even qualified for the Olympia, never even been able to compete there, and Nick has been top 3, very good for Martin. And while it's still good for Nick that he won, I don't think it's good that he allowed Martin to push him this much, because, like I said in my wrap-up video, it's not like Nick was off here. Nick nailed it. He was on. He controlled his midsection. His conditioning was good. His posing was good. His tan was really good. Everything about Nick was on. And that's why Martin pushing him to the extent that he did is not good for Nick. Because like I said, it would be different if Nick could say, well, I was off. Something went wrong. I didn't look my best. I was only, 80%. And that's why it was so close. But I think Nick looked really good here, which makes me wonder not only where will Nick place at the Olympia, but where will Martin place at his first Olympia ever this year? This is the first one that he's qualified for. Because quite frankly, Martin pushing Nick the way that he did it makes me believe that Martin could be top 6 at his first Olympia ever, first call out. I mean, there's no denying how impressive it was what Martin did here. And the reason why I'm concerned for Nick in this situation is really the only thing I think you could say about Nick is bring up the quads. I think that was kind of the weak point that a lot of people noticed, but his conditioning was good. I mean, how much more size could he really put on his upper body without really throwing off his proportions? I mean, he's already like just mutant stacked in the upper body. He could put on some size to his quads, but how much more size can Nick Walker's frame really handle without totally blowing out the midsection? I mean, there's not much improvement he really could make because he's limited with his frame. He's really, I think Nick is close to maxing out his frame. And I saw people putting up comparisons of when Nick won the New York Pro in 2021 to winning this one now in 2024, 3 years between the two. And yeah, there were some minor changes where you could see Nick made improvements, but I don't think you saw drastic improvements in the past 3 years. You saw some size between the two wins, an increase in muscle mass, but I think you could make the argument that when Nick won in 2021, his midsection was much tighter and his abs were much deeper. Conditioning was really kind of, it was pretty comparable. He's always in really good shape. But I guess my question to you guys is, what does Nick need to do? What can he do in order to win the Olympia like he says he will and wants to do? Because even with bringing up the quads, I really don't know how much more size Nick's frame can really handle. But anyway, I'm not going to ramble too much more about it. This is just the type of thing that I think makes current bodybuilding so exciting, is you can have a new guy like Martin come in and just really shake things up, pushing Nick to 1 point at both prejudging and finals. That's a big shakeup, and if he would have won, that would have been probably the biggest upset of the year. This is the kind of exciting stuff that makes bodybuilding so fun. Now, next up, I wanted to talk about Quint Beastwood's post on Instagram after placing 6th at the New York Pro. Now, Quinton is not on the list for Cali, so it looks like he might be going back to the drawing board. We might not see him for a while before he competes again. And the question with Quinton is, what does he need to do exactly to become one of the top guys? Because I think with Quinton, he takes these long, extended off seasons to put on size. Because we've talked about this before. Quinton being as tall as he is, I believe he's 6'2", he's got a big frame to fill out. And I think it's most evident in his upper body. I think that's what was kind of holding him back, because his legs were insane. His quads were probably some of the craziest quads on that stage. But his upper body just still didn't quite look filled out enough. He looked kind of flat, and he kind of lacked that fullness. Now, he did look similar to how he looked on Instagram. I think he looked bigger, fuller, more pumped in a lot of the Instagram pictures. But he still had the same great V-taper that he had on Instagram. He still looks like a bigger guy. Not just taller, he still is one of the bigger guys. He has a lot of muscle on his physique. Very aesthetic. I thought he was a pretty good poser in his individuals routine. And I just don't think it's necessarily that Quinton is doing something wrong. I think it's just a matter of this is something that really is going to take time for him, because he is such a taller guy. I mean, it's true what they say, that bodybuilding really is more of a short man sport. Shorter guys have an advantage because when you have a smaller frame, because of your height, you've got shorter arms, you've got shorter legs, you've got a shorter midsection. It's not as hard to balance and fill out that frame and that physique. But when you're a taller guy that's like 6'2", like Quinton, you've got long arms, long legs, long torso. It's more of a process to fill all that out the way that a guy that's 5'5" or 5'6" would. Hadi Chupin, Derek Lunsford, Nick Walker. Now you've got Martin Fitzwater. These are all guys that are 5'5", 5'6", 5'7". And frankly, I just think it's going to take a guy like Quinton longer to fill out that frame. And he seems upset about it. He says in his caption, he placed 6th at the New York Pro. Don't congratulate me. Don't try to console me. Nobody's words will do anything to me right now outside of my coaches. On to the next. So clearly he's not happy with this placing. I think, personally, this is the best look he's ever brought to the stage, but it still just wasn't enough. Placing 6th obviously wasn't what he wanted. But I still thought he looked really good. It's just not the same as how he looked on Instagram, because now when you put him next to these guys that are shorter, have smaller frames, and they are proportionally filled out, it kind of exposes the areas that he's not filled out in that same way. So it's just a matter of putting him next to guys that are, where you really see those flaws. But still, beautiful physique, beautiful structure, beautiful shape, good amount of size, just I don't think enough yet in the upper body. He's just not full enough. But he has all the tools. I just think it's going to be a longer process for him because he is so much taller than everybody else. But I would say my main takeaway watching him at the New York Pro was, man, phenomenal quads. His legs, the separation was crazy. And I should mention that while he's not doing Cali, he did announce that he is doing the Toronto show. So it won't be that long until we see him on stage, but it looks like he is going to take some time to go back to the drawing board before Toronto, which I think is about 3 weeks away, maybe 2.5 or something. But I look forward to seeing him back on stage. I think he's got a really nice physique, just needs some more upper body. He just needs to fill out his upper body more. So I think that about wraps up the video. We'll have a whole nother show to talk about this weekend with the rematch of Tonio and Stu. Like I said, interesting stuff. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at NickStrengthPower, my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.